we also need to talk about what Coinbase just did last week, because that is actually, in my opinion, really, really interesting. This is Sol Brothers with Simon and Eno, where it is our job to throw you into the Solana rabbit hole and show you around in our exciting ecosystem.
Our mission is to take you on the latest and greatest so that you never run out of fun things to talk about. Simon, a lot of news this week. It's been a little bit slow, I feel, for the last month, but there's a lot of drama, a lot of updates, a lot of new feature releases. I'm actually kind of excited to talk about the news this week.
Yeah, we have a lot of cool things coming up. I mean, we always have cool things on the Solana news horizon, but this time I feel also there's like a lot of exciting things. So where do you want to start, my friend?
Yeah. Well, maybe you want to, let people know what are some of the broader things that we might be talking about during the podcast this week. You want to give them a little bit of a rundown?
Yeah. So we do have a new asset listing on Solana, day one listing on Solana, and it's happening on Sol and nowhere else. We're going to tell you what asset this is about. We have a new SIMD proposal for the Solana core infrastructure, the SIMD 0411, and we need to talk about this one as well because it has relevance to, well, our asset and potentially even the price of our asset. We have a Solana student hackathon that we're going to give a quick shout out to. And we also need to talk about what Coinbase just did last week, because that is actually, in my opinion, really, really interesting that they are doubling down to that extent on Solana. The largest on-chain Bitcoin reserve is also coming to Sol, as well as a new integration for the Solflare Explore page, which we're going to talk about as well. We do have the community spotlight nominations closing very soon, actually today, I think, or tomorrow, for the Breakpoint community spotlight nominations hosted by Solflare and Solana Foundation. So we're going to check that out as well. And we have a few news as well from SNS. There's a real farmer campaign going on, and we covered it already last week briefly. And it just got realer. So we're going to talk a little bit about that as well, besides some flash trade and DEX updates that we're going to sprinkle in here as well. And that will wrap up today's show.
Yeah. So we're going to jump right into it. The first thing that Simon mentioned is very interesting. I haven't really seen this amount of cross collaboration between chains before. It does seem like the first of its kind, at least for Solana. But what we're seeing is that Monad is going to list day one on Solana. So you can trade Monad token on the Solana blockchain. The equivalent of this to me almost kind of feels like as if Base were to announce at that time when they did their TGE that Base is going to be its own chain, of course, but from day one we are going to list Base on all Solana DeFi applications on on Jupiter, have it verified. It's just interesting to see the amount of collaboration between Monad and Solana. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I think it's just ICM at its finest, right? It makes so much sense. Like if you like all you want for your token, whatever chain you're building and wherever whatever you're doing, really, if it's Ethereum land, if it's new L1, whatever you are, actually whatever asset you are putting out there in the world, you want liquidity and you want volume and you want price go up. So you go wherever you see the best chance for that to happen, right? So that's why the biggest companies list their companies on Nasdaq, which is difficult and very rigorous and very expensive and very lengthy. You pay millions of dollars to prepare the files needed from your lawyers and from your bankers to list on a public market like the Nasdaq. Now, Monad listing day one on Solana is definitely way cheaper than listing on the Nasdaq because that's internet capital markets. It makes access, not only access, but also the listing process permissionless, right? Because everyone can list on Solana. We don't give a shit. Like we saw a lot of bad things listed on Solana this year as well, as part of the meme coin craze. And it happened. It is permissionless. But now we're seeing really, really good and valuable assets coming to this blockchain. Why? Because they're looking for the best economical case for their asset, and I think they can find it on Solana.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of liquidity here and all the user activity, and it's not a bad idea to bootstrap a lot of your first activity on a chain, obviously, with lots of users. And we've also noticed that in the past, there have been certain chains that have really nice synergy with Solana. So, just to list off a couple of examples, Hyperliquid, many Solana users have switched onto
Yeah.
Hyperliquid for a lot, Hyperliquid, not Hyperlipid, for all
Hmm.
their perps trading.
Yeah.
Obviously, Sui, when NFTs looked like they might have kind of been back earlier this year. We
Mm.
saw a lot of Solana folks, especially the NFT crowd, talking about Sui. And Monad, I haven't really quite wrapped my head around what type of Solana user is interested in Monad. I know that the only Nam, of the Bonk team is a huge supporter. And the Bonk team obviously wants to support Bonk cross chain, but
Mm.
Monad seems to be one of those chains that a lot of serious builders, people who have been building on the chain for a very long time, are bullish on. So yeah, it's just very interesting to see that kind of cross collaboration between chains.
Yeah. 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 I mean, again, if Solana really wants to be the layer where all assets trade, then that includes all other blockchain native assets and cryptocurrencies. It kind of makes a lot of sense now. Back a year ago, you probably would have thought differently. You'd have like they need to have their own fucking thing and whatever. But you see what happens to all the coins that are not trading on Solana. I mean, the case is pretty clear.
Sorry, there's just this one comment that we got that I think is fucking hilarious, which is thing one and thing two, but one is Chinese and the other just bloody American. And the funny thing is, I didn't know that Simon was Chinese.
Wait a second, I didn't even get it. I don't, who's calling? He's calling me Chinese and you American, or you
No, no,
the
you're the
Chinese?
American, and I'm the
Okay,
Chinese.
all
But
right, that
technically,
is
I'm the
interesting.
American, so you're the Chinese.
True. So now I'm the Chinese. Obviously,
How's your Chinese,
obviously.
Simon? Ni hao ma.
Yeah, yeah. I'm out. I haven't even been there yet. So yeah, very far
Um,
from me.
so
What
we
next, Simon?
have a really big update in the world of Solana improvement documents. I really love that we started
Yeah.
covering SIMDs on this show. In the past, I didn't pay attention to them at all. But also, to be fair, I also the SIMDs have been much more active in 2025 than they have in years previously. So this is a proposal that's been put up by Mert, and
Mm,
essentially what he wants to do, it's called SIMT 411. He wants to reduce the amount of disinflation, or actually increase the amount of disinflation by 2x, right?
mm-hmm,
So if you look at the current SIMD, excuse me, the current disinflation rate, you'll see that the plan was to get to a 1.5% target inflation rate in 6.2 years, right? And in order to get there, we had 15% disinflation. The SIMD 411 doubles the disinflation to 30%, which means that
mm,
we would get to the 1.5% inflation rate in literally half the time, right? Double, so
mm,
half. not that hard. But the point being is that for validators, if you look over at this nifty article written by our friends over at Pine Analytics, I really love this piece. They help us understand SIMD 411. And really, what you have to know here as a validator is probably these numbers, right? So the nominal staking yields will decline smoothly. In year one, 5%. So that would be next year. 2 years from today, if it were to pass today, the staking yields would be about 3.5%. In year three, the staking yields would be about 2.42%. So
mm,
again, let's be very, very clear. This was always the plan, right? The question that SIMD 411 asks is whether or not we want to reach these staking yields in half the time. Another point that the supporters of this proposal really want to make is that only 10 validators would become unprofitable in the first year. They're really hitting on this piece of information because if you remember with SIMD 228, which was wildly unpopular, the main
mm,
argument that folks were making is that because of the dynamic emission schedule, many of the smaller validators would take a hit and therefore would become unprofitable very quickly. Um,
mm,
like basically overnight. Whereas What's different here is that we're only changing one variable, and that is the disinflation rate, increasing it from 15 to 30%. But at the end of the day, what this means is that less performant validators would have more time to try to earn more money, right? So that would mean with this new plan, we would be reducing 22.3 million SOL into the market, and at current prices, that's about 3 billion. So I'll pause
Mm.
there. And what do you make of SIMD 411? You got any questions on it, or does it fill you with optimism, dread? Do you think this is good for token price? Would love to get the Simon take.
I think the upsides are huge in my opinion. Like there's a lot of good positives about this. Every current Sol holder is basically a winner, essentially, because we're increasing or decreasing the amount of Sol in circulation, which is most times a good thing for an asset to do. So it sounds like a pretty bullish pre-launch for Solana, right? But then I don't know about the API point. Why actually is that? Like, do you know that? Like, do you know why the APY is going down in
Yeah,
the
because the
validation?
emissions that are paid out to validators are decreasing, right? I mean, which is always true every year, but it's
Mm.
it's just on an accelerated
Ah,
schedule, and so
yeah.
we already would have. So you're earning uh, uh, not block rewards, but inflation rewards, right?
Mm.
Inflation rewards are a part of your yield that you earn as a
Yeah.
validator, and that
Yeah.
yield is passed on to stakers. You, as a validator, do charge a commission on that. So this is not, to be very clear, your take as a validator, but to your stakers, right? You would now have less inflation yield to be able to pass on to stakers. The
But isn't
discrep
wouldn't like the price is also going up potentially from this proposal? Like at least that's the idea, right? Like salt price could benefit
That's the
from.
SOL price, but that has nothing to do with the yield, right? Because the yield is not paid out in USDC denominated terms. The yield is paid out in the SOL terms, right? So when you
Exactly. So I
stake,
get more if the price goes up. I get more
only if
USDC.
SOL goes up. So, but you're talking about
Yeah.
in USDC denominated terms. So this is great, it uh, like I think most validators wouldn't care about losing half of their yield if Sol price 4x's, right? It doesn't
Mm.
fucking
Yeah.
matter because it's kind of like,
Yeah.
but is that realistically going to happen? Probably not.
Tough to say.
Um,
Yeah.
Tough to and there's so many things. You know this more than anybody, looking at the charts and looking at all the macro data and talking about this every week. But it's
Mm.
not no single SIMD or any single integration or partnership or move or listing is going to 4x Sol immediately. It's the
Mm.
aggregate of everything over a sustained drumbeat of time.
Of course.
Um, but still, the absolute Sol in Sol denominated terms, that you would earn in say 3 years time, would
Mm.
be about 2.5%, 2.4%. So
Mm.
yes, you would be earning less in Sol denominated terms. And if Sol price does not go up for whatever reason, God forbid, in the next
Sure.
3 years, that is
Mm.
not a good thing. But reducing the amount of Sol in circulation over the next 3 years or six, technically, by 22 million is not so bad, right? How much is that going to affect Sol price? I don't know, but it's like about $3 billion in leakage, as Mert calls it, that some
Mm.
people feel that we don't have to pay.
Okay. Yeah, he got a case. I mean, he has a case, but I'm just personally but afraid, obviously, about the health of the validator ecosystem on Solana. Like, it is tough. Like, it's a tough landscape to survive
Yeah,
in, which is, I guess, what they want as well. Like, it needs to be competitive, and we want high performance, right? Like,
yeah,
but there's also a limit, right? How tough should you make it in order to not lose too much of the decentralization that we're also
right,
already
right.
struggling with.
That's a bit of a sticky question. It's a very, very sticky question because I
Mm.
mean, looking at it from Toly and probably even Mert's perspective, it's like if you haven't found a way to become profitable with the Sol prices that we're at and haven't been able to stake in the time that you've had. And you've even seen this with the Solana delegation program. They've slashed it considerably, right? So all the signals from the highest levels are telling you basically like get better at it or tough shit. That's what they're saying, right? And
true.
but at the same time, they're still trying to onboard more high quality validators, like competitive validators, people who have not even started staking in Solana. I know our friend BM is working on an initiative over in South America, right? So clearly, there's still an appetite for geographic decentralization. Even Double Zero has a 13 million Sol delegation that they got from Foundation. This is all public information, by the way. But like they get that in the name of geographic decentralization. So it's not like the Foundation and Anza does not want new validators. It's just that they have a very, very high quality bar, right? And but it's tough. It's a very, very tough business. I empathize with you very deeply. I think everyone is feeling the squeeze.
Yep. But there's always two coins, right? Two sides to a coin. So on the other side, I also see the point of this. Last time when we talked about SIMD 228, if I recall it correctly, this was part of the discussion. And a lot of people were actually asking for a simplified version that is just reducing inflation. And that's it. And now I think we got it. Is it? Do you know if the proposal is right now just in evaluation stage, or is it already is it up for vote already?
I think it's very much just a discussion, but what we've seen with previous SIMDs is they move very quickly, right? I should look a little bit deeper into when exactly they're going to be voting on this, but I remember one SIMD we talked about on a Monday, and then by like Friday it had already reached quorum, from what I remember. So like these things do move quite fast. I also think the timing of it is very clever, especially for Mert, right? So they've made a couple of adjustments this time. So this time it's not the multi-coin cabal as well as Max Resnick from Anza that's making it. It's Mert that's doing it, right? So that's clever, right? And the second clever thing is he obviously timed it for when Sol is doing very poorly. I 100% believe that he's had this in the back pocket ever since 228, right? But was just waiting for the right timing for when to release it. And when's the maximum probability to do this? Like when would it pass? It's when Sol price is down, when people are feeling bad and they want price to do something to the price. So like this is it's very masterfully politically timed.
True.
I don't have a negative or a positive opinion about that. It's just I'm just calling it what it is, which is very masterfully timed.
Fair. Yeah. Let's see. Once it's up for vote, if it's gonna pass. I think chances are not bad for this proposal to pass. We'll see.
Yeah,
we will let you guys know once we have more details on this one.
absolutely. I mean, like if Sol price was up like at $300, like nobody would vote for this, right? Because like why would nobody's incentive is to give themselves less money, right? Like everyone's incentive is to give themselves more money, but markets are cyclical, so we will definitely keep you up to date with where we are with SIMD 411. Moving on to other pieces of news, we have a Solana student hackathon. So registrations are open for the Solana student hackathon this fall, a month-long online event for students who want to learn, build, and ship real projects on Solana. I love initiatives like this. So there's a registration window all the way from November 20th. So it started 4 days ago, all the way to December 7th. So people have about a week and a half to register for the Solana Student Hackathon. And the winners will be announced right before Christmas, December 24th. There's a building period, a kickoff period. So it's a very short time window, but if you wanted to learn how to build on Solana, now's your time to do so.
Cool. I like that. We need more fresh people joining this ecosystem. I've heard that Solana is also more and more focusing on corporate talent in future. Something a few birds told me.
Yeah.
And like big ex Microsoft, whatever the fuck, like big expensive developers, which is good. But I also think that this ecosystem so far has been built by a lot of new emerging talent straight out of college. So I'm always happy to see initiatives that will give us more of that talent as well.
Of course,
Very
of
cool.
course. And talking about other news that's very, very bullish, but also has been a little controversial over the weekend. We have this lovely post from Brian Armstrong. He said earlier this year, we would level up. I said that we would level up our Solana game. Since then, we've brought
Mm.
Agent Kit and X402 to Solana, made upgrades to infrastructure to scale services, 5x improvements in block processing, et cetera, et cetera. And now we're bringing Solana native tech and talent to plug into our platform and level up support for Solana trading at Coinbase. He, of course, quote tweeted this announcement by Coinbase, which is that Coinbase is acquiring the Vector.fun team, an on-trade trading platform built on Solana, whose tech will plug directly into Coinbase to help better serve one of crypto's most active ecosystems. So for those of you who don't know what Vector.fun was, it was kind of like a trade with your friends mobile and desktop app. So it would send you kind of these signals. You would subscribe to different folks' accounts and you could copy trade. You would get a notification on your phone saying that Ansem just bought 500 million dick butt, right? And then you could also decide to, I hope that's not a real token. Probably. And it would also give you sell signals as well. So, Ansem sold 500 million of dick butt. And Vector, of course, was a spin-off of Tensor. And Tensor was, at a period of time, the number one NFT marketplace on Solana. Absolutely goated team. I actually really like Ilya and Richard personally. They seem like very honest people. I don't agree with Ilya's tweets all the time, but that has nothing to do with what I think about him as a person, which is very high integrity. That being said, very, very controversial back and forth this weekend. Did you see some of that chatter?
Yeah, I think it's wild that, I mean, I understand that they're acquiring the team and the talent, but don't they have their own L2? Like, why are they doubling down on Solana? Why is Coinbase doubling down on Solana if you have your own
Well, I
L2?
mean, it's probably because they've gotten so many customer support complaints. Like Brian has gotten yelled at multiple times in 2025 for sometimes the Solana transaction speeds make no sense. It's like the transaction is processed like 30 minutes later or an hour later, which is like, what are you guys doing in the back end?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
makes that a thing. But I'm actually more referring to the allegations of Tensor token insider trading, as well as this point that Xiong made over the weekend that acquisition is nothing to celebrate, and it actually brings back tokens, especially equity tokens, by a number of years. This is a really bad precedent to set. I don't know if you were paying attention to some of that back and forth, but there are some people who are very, very unhappy with this acquisition.
So what's the problem? Like like token holders are complaining mainly, like Tensor token holders.
So there's two things that people are complaining about. Number one, there is a wallet that is clearly associated with the Tensor Treasury wallet. So this would probably be an employee who loaded up on Tensor tokens right before the announcement. So before anybody knew what was happening, the Tensor token pumped very considerably for I think 2 days before the announcement, and then right after the announcement was made, that wallet dumped, and and then it sent its funds, the USDC, to Coinbase. So clearly, Coinbase knows who this person is. They have access to that wallet, and they know who received those funds. So that investigation is ongoing. Coinbase has confirmed that there's an investigation into who exactly purchased those Tensor tokens and dumped them. That is not cool, right? Like, you cannot be insider trading information that you have on an acquisition and then dumping right after the announcement. So that's a big no-no. Retail users lose there. So especially if it was a Tensor employee, right? So
that's so stupid as well. Like, isn't it? Is it so stupid to send it back to your Coinbase account? So I mean, I don't want to say that's the right thing to do. Just do it right. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it is absolutely wrong if you do it in insider trading, but I also think it's silly.
Yeah.
The
Well, I
way.
mean, Also, it was like his profit was about $160,000, right? Which is about a 1 year average engineer's salary, right? So like, why ruin your credibility in the ecosystem for 1 year salary, right?
Mm,
Again,
mm.
I'm not saying, well, if you're gonna rug, then rug for much more money. Like that's definitely not what we're saying.
Great advice
Um,
here from us. Yeah.
right. But the second thing is that why Xiong is so against this style of acquisition is
Mm,
because if we're trying to claim as an ecosystem that we have equity tokens now and anybody that has revenue should have a token, well, that thesis only works if people feel that they have claims to the company, right? So what that means is that if the company gets acquired, I as a token holder get a share of that because I have claims to the company. What happens when you as a team, let's say Tensor, have a bunch of comms saying that this is a revenue token, but then when you're acquired, then token holders see no part of that and only the equity holders eat, right? That is a problem. And actually, one of the main theses of Futarchy's latest token launchpad is that you actually do have claims to the company, right? So, like, if they call them unruggable tokens because this is exactly the scenario that Futarchy is
mm.
trying to solve for. There is a
Okay.
split between equity and
Hmm.
token value. And the reason why Seong is upset is no one is going to take token value seriously, which means that nobody's tokens pumps if
Hmm.
we are scared that Coinbase is going to acquire a great team, right?
Mm.
And then the token holders see no share of that, right? And it goes all to the team. Now,
Yeah.
I have a couple of other observations just generally, which is number one, if meme coin market is not doing well, so I don't think Tensor is, I mean, Vector, whatever, Tensor is the Vector
Yeah.
token,
Yeah.
is doing particularly well. I don't, and so there's not like a lot of revenue to share there, right? The second thing that I would say though is that usually in an acquihire situation, which is no offense, but it's if your team isn't doing well, you get acquired for your tech if your product is doing well. You get acquihired for people if your tech is not doing so well, but you're awesome, right? It's
Mm.
the second scenario. So
Yeah.
honestly, I don't think that there was a lot of money that I don't think that Ilya is walking away with multi-million dollars, right? That
Hmm.
could have been
Hmm.
shared with token holders. If anything,
Yeah.
it's probably more of like a signing bonus amount of
Mm.
money, right? So it's like, how much money are we really talking that would go to token holders? Like 500K, 600K, maybe. I mean, I don't know the specifics of the deal. I'm just saying that
Mm.
if this was an acquisition, there would be a lot more money to share amongst token holders. It's not. Okay, it's
Mm.
acquihire,
Mm.
which means that there's probably not a lot of money to share. But anywho,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's been a major point of contention in the community over the weekend.
Hmm.
These types of
Very
acquisitions are
interesting.
very harmful to equity tokens
Yeah.
or revenue
Yeah. I
tokens.
mean,
Excuse me.
exactly. Yeah. That's the thing. Like, we don't have that really. Like, we're talking about equity tokens and we're talking about revenue token, but it's just a term, right? Like, it's not, there's nothing, as you said, like, if you do it with MetaDAO, maybe there are some legal claims, but 90% of the tokens that we have out there right now, you can call them RevCoin, but only because you wrote an article how they will accrue revenue, right? Like, there's no further evidence that they're actually that. So TLDR here for me. I think this is hurtful but needed for the industry to move forward, because we are learning things from this now, from these scenarios that we can use to build better companies pegged to tokens. And we come already a long way, and I think we're getting better at this. And there's companies out there like MetaDAO, or also like Seedplex. Shout out to to Trex, who's building, and Spaceman Dev. They're building tokenized equity tokens, basically. So they
Mm.
you tokenize your equity shares and put them in tokens. Exactly that, the same thing, right? So there's the technologies are being built because we have a need for it.
Yeah,
um, I think we're going to get there, and we need to see a few more of these, um, critical cases to come up with better ideas, and learn from
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Interesting.
I
Yeah.
I have mixed feelings on this. Just it's I think the founders are great. I don't think that they were ill intentioned. I think the crypto Twitter doesn't have all the information. They're not really seeing the situation objectively. There's probably not a lot of money that could have been distributed to token holders anyways.
Mm.
Um, but the optics of it look horrible, right? Like, I'm not going to deny that. Just the optics look like really shit. If you take the case of Jupiter, which acquired Sonar Watch, and
Yeah.
Sonar Watch had a token, Sonar. What they did was they took a snapshot of all Sonar token holders, and they looked at the dollar amount value, and then they gave a certain amount of jupe based on that value
Oh,
to all
I didn't know
Sonar
that.
token holders. That
Cool.
makes, I mean, that makes sense, right? Like
Yeah.
you want to make your token holders whole in some way. The
Yeah.
gesture almost matters more than what actually happens. But in this
Mm.
case, there doesn't seem to have been much that was done. So yeah,
Mm.
just the optics don't look so great, but I am very happy for the Vector and the Tensor team.
Cool.
Oh,
All
by
right.
the way, if there's anybody here that has a Vector app and you haven't checked it in a long time, please export your private keys. I think in the next 24 hours. You have 5 days since the announcement to export your private keys into new wallets, Solflare. But yeah, if you got money on there, that announcement was made a few days ago, so you got about 24, 48 hours before they shut down the app for regulatory reasons because they're working with Coinbase now. So please be sure to go onto the Vector app and export your private keys into Solflare, the best wallet on Solana.
Mm.
Moving on
Thanks.
to other pieces of news, we have Solve Protocol, new ecosystem unlocked. Solve has built its foundations in other ecosystems, boasting a peak of 2.8 billion in managed assets, and now we're bringing BTC Finance standard to Solana. So it's going to be Solve
Mm.
season. We're bringing BTC to Solana. There's quite a few protocols that are working on this, right? We have Apollo, Zeus, which is all the same company,
Mm-hmm.
BTC Sol. Solve obviously is bringing BTC. I know Foundation is working on a couple of initiatives as well to bring BTC to Solana. So yeah, just something to keep note of. We got more BTC finance coming onto Solana.
I think that's what we need because we want to have all assets trading on Sol. And Bitcoin is the biggest one out there. So if you have some random BTCs flying around and you're not putting them to work, well, you can do it on Solana.
Yeah. I really love the way that I think Gianni puts it. You interviewed Gianni over in Singapore, which is
Yep.
BTC is the asset, but Solana is the infrastructure. And that's really the way that it should be. We have the most DeFi activity on Solana. So, folks should be doing their BTC finance on Solana. Moving forward to other pieces of news, man, the rise of the prop AMMs, man, they are taking over the game. You look at this market
Yep.
share right now.
It's
There's
crazy.
this prop AMM called Humidify, and it's surpassed all major centralized exchanges, including Binance, in weekly Sol USD spot volume just 5 months after launching on Solana. Humidify, as you may or may not know, is being pushed very, very heavily by Jupiter. They've even launched their token Wet through Jupiter. Cash has been tweeting Wet everywhere. It's quite funny.
How's that
But yeah,
doing, by the way?
just
Is there,
I
yeah,
do not pay attention to Wet token price, but perhaps we should do that on future.
interesting. Yeah. I
Technical
mean,
analysis.
looking at this, yeah, looking at this, this data right there, yeah, pretty insane, isn't it?
Yeah, Sol USDC. I mean, Jesus, they're at over $15 billion in volume. You know, and you're looking at Binance. Binance is hitting about 10 billion. So Binance is getting outcompeted very heavily by Humidify. They're beating out all the major exchanges: Coinbase, Binance, OKX, Bybit, Kraken. So that's very interesting to see.
I mean, yeah,
Humidify is making some major waves.
huge. I think it's
Yeah.
huge, honestly, because you remember when there was like almost no hope that we ever see the amount of volume on chain compared to off chain, right, on Sexes. And in
Yeah.
the past 12 months, we saw a steady decline on both fronts. Mindshare for centralized exchanges and kind of brand positioning got a big hit. And then on the other side as well, just numbers and metrics, and everything's
Yeah.
coming on chain. So I think it's very feasible to see a future in a few years where most of I think a lot of centralized exchange might actually die if they don't pivot to anything else. Um, and a lot of stuff is just going to happen on chain. That's huge. I
Yeah.
think that's huge.
Yeah. I mean, you're seeing some very forward-thinking sexes that are already looking at on-chain activities. So, like Bybit, as an example, now
Mm.
has Bereal. right?
Yeah.
And I think Nomu, not Nomu, excuse me, Swissborg is also looking pretty heavily into on-chain activity. So clearly,
Hmm.
there are some sexes that can already see the writing on the wall, and they're
Yep.
trying to make sure that they don't become a head on someone's mantle. So moving on to sponsor news, and of course we love to talk about our friends over at Solflare. So there's an exclusive for all Solflare users. So there's a new 10% APY yield unlock for people who use Solflare. So Rya Finance provides cross-chain liquidity, which means that they're able to offer yield opportunities that are not available only on Solana, but through any chain that is integrated through Raya. And
Mm.
so, what that means for you as a Solflare user is that you can deposit your USDC, USDT, or your Zcash and earn up to 10% APY and borrow across chains supported with multi chain accounts by Raya Finance. There seems to be like a new multi-chain asset provider every week. I'm really curious to see how that market evolves over time. But the long and the short of it,
Mm.
Simon, is that you now have more ways to put your money to work.
Yeah, and what do you think about the choice of assets you can use for this? You have USDC, you have USDT, and you have Zcash.
Yeah.
All right.
This kind of goes into what you were talking about earlier in this call, which is that Solana is happy to work with any asset, whether that's Monad or whether or not that's Bitcoin
Yep.
or whether or not that's Zcash, and
Exactly.
that's really good positioning for Solana because it's less about
Mm.
us versus them and more about you do your thing, but then like let's bring the DeFi activity onto Solana, which is a win-win proposition for us.
Yep, it's so smart. That is, I
Yes.
think, that is the way to go, and we'll see. We'll see much more of that in future with securities and actual assets from the real world coming on chain, with bonds, with commodities, with forex, anything that's tradable right now off chain is going to come to Solana, including anything that's new, including competitive blockchains and their tokens like Monad, including Zcash, Bitcoin itself. They're all coming to Solana. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. You can't be bearish on this ecosystem really right now.
No, not at all.
Only if you look at the
Um,
price.
and I'm backstage, so I can see Simon flipping back to the soul charts.
It's going down right now. Yeah, a little bit.
um,
What else you got?
So we have the Oscars coming to Solana. We talked about this last week, but this is going to be absolutely delightful. On December 13th, which is the last day of Breakpoint, Solflare, as the title sponsor of Breakpoint, is going to be holding the Community Awards. And
Yeah.
so Community Spotlight. So we have two different categories, one for builders and one more on the community and culture side. The nominations close today. So if you want to nominate anybody for a particular category, you should definitely do so.
Soul Brothers.
Soul Brothers, Soul Brothers. Um, so how exactly do you submit your?
Yeah, let me tell you. So, guys, this is a call to action. If you're listening to this right now, or if you're listening in the recording later today, and this is still open, then please go over to solana.com/breakpoint/awards. That's all you have to do. Solana.com/breakpoint/awards. You scroll down, and there's a section called Community and Culture, and there is the Solana Ambassador Award, as well as the Solana Best Content Creator. And I think both of them are feasible for Soul Brothers. But Best Content Creator could also be, Eno, or Simon Molitor. So you can also put in your individual person down there. But for the Ambassador Award, at least over there, plug in Soul Brothers Pod, because that's our handle, Soul Brothers Pod, as the Solana Ambassador Award for the nominations on solana.com/breakpoint/awards. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, no, I'm doing that right now. I have no shame.
Here you go.
Submitted Soul Brothers Pod, and then
I did the
best
same.
content creator. I have to do, of course, my buddy
Great. This way we did each other. That's good to know.
Simon. Is it with an O? Am I retarded? Simon Molitor.
Yeah, looks good. Yeah.
Okay. Submit nomination. That's right. You too
Yeah.
can submit a nomination for the community awards hosted by Solflare. So the nominations end today. So please, would love to get those lovely nominations.
Yes, I even thought that like you can use your Safari and your Chrome, for example, to chip in twice. Just a little growth hack here. Anyway,
Well, I
moving
mean,
on.
this isn't like voting though, right? This is just the nominations. The voting will come afterwards.
Yeah, it's true.
The next thing that we want to talk about, speaking of Bereal, which is the on-chain equivalent of Bybit, so it's their DEX, their decentralized exchange, the partner to the yin to their yang. So they have real farmers spotted at CCCC Lisbon 2025. So I believe that these are literal seeds, and the real inspiration behind this is that there's a campaign right now, right, on Bereal, where you can copy farm what other seasoned farmers do with SNS. So much like copy trading, where you look at someone's wallet and seeing how they're buying and selling, copying farming is a feature on Bereal where you can copy a wallet's farming strategy of a point system, or at least farming season. It's a specific
Yeah,
campaign that SNS is doing with Bereal.
really cool. Yeah, I mean, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Good to see the collab as well between Bereal and SNS.
There comes a moment in every person's life where they look at a string of random wallet characters and whisper, "I deserve better." I agree. We do deserve better. Oh man, I miss my dog.
Oh.
Anywho, yeah. So other pieces. Sorry, my dog died. So another piece of news that we'd like to talk about is what a day at the Solana network state. Balaji opened with a standout question and answer session, and the energy stayed high throughout the SNS session and every conversation afterwards. Grateful for the builders, curious minds, and new faces. Road to Breakpoint is officially underway. Geez Louise, these guys are going to be on the road for like the next few weeks. Hong Kong to Singapore. So yeah, Dotso, the mascot of SNS, seems like they're on the way to Singapore. So network state is well underway.
Yeah, they have like I think a pretty good relation with Balaji by now, because he actually gave a good shout out as well at Accelerate to SNS, to that's all, because he kind of gets what they do, which is obvious because it's very simple from a concept perspective. So it's cool. Yeah, good collab.
And he deeply believes in the identity layer. So you should also be talking to Simon.
True.
This is a fun little activation that we're seeing over, I believe, in Australia, perhaps New Zealand. Is that okay? No, I thought that was a weed dispensary. It is not. They sell pies and hummus.
Almost.
But we have a flash trade billboard, and it's done by the teams that released a token called Billboard. It's called Billboard CTO. So they put billboards
Interesting.
around the world to promote communities and brands on Solana. That is a very interesting business. I like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, Flash Trade has had a billboard put up over, I believe, in either Australia or New Zealand. But
Cool.
more importantly, I think that this graphic speaks way more about what we want to see in 2026. And we're already seeing the shift, Simon, right?
Yeah.
You said, and you were correct, it was unthinkable that on-chain trading would overtake, centralized exchange, volume. And now we're seeing that we're eating into their market share for futures trading. So the perps game on chain has been fundamentally changed. I would suspect that a lot of this has to do with Hyperliquid. If I looked, I don't know where these numbers are coming from, but I would imagine a lot of it does have to do with Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid was just kind of exploded onto the scene this year. So congrats to all our hype holders. But yes, the DEX to SEX futures trading volume ratio has increased considerably over time. And I want to see a fully green chart, Simon. I want to see a 96-4 split in our favor.
It's realistic, bro. It's realistic. Not this year, not next year, but I think if we're gonna stick around long enough here in this industry, it's gonna be the norm at some point. I like the way Anatoly the founder of Solana, co-founder of Solana, put it in an interview, where he said that when he created Solana, he imagined in his mind the sci-fi version of finance in 2050, and that in his mind he saw Solana. Like, this is how it looks like, the sci-fi version of the financial industry, really.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think, back then when new technologies were emerging, when the internet was new and there were people like us tinkering at emerging tech, they obviously had their vision, but there's always that question mark in your head where you're like, can we really do it? Like, is it really possible? And you believe enough in it that you just keep going. But then at some point, the reality actually is what you imagined 10 years ago. And that's going to be wild for all of us here that are in this space. Because right now, again, we're still early. It sounds bad by now because we've been saying this since years. But we are still early. I think there's so much more potential in the next decade to see. And yeah, good to see more volume on chain, especially if it's coming to our friends at Flash Trade as well. So if you don't trade yet on Flash Trade, then yeah, consider heading over there. You can actually go to flash.solbrotherspot.com to sign up via Sol Brothers now to Flash Trade. So if you're a new trader and you are still stuck on centralized exchanges and you're still accepting KYC exchanges with withdrawal fees and slow on ramping, then move your money on chain and go to flash.solbrotherspot.com and trade on chain and farm some FAF tokens for your volume.
All right, everybody. Well, that concludes this week's latest and greatest on Solana. Simon, is there anything that you want to conclude with today?
That's all. You guys stay safe out there. This week is going to be a crazy week. We see the volatility already right now in the charts because price is going up and down a lot. So yeah, stay safe and tune in again when it's time for our next version. We're going to have another one later this week. Until then, make sure you follow our Soul Brothers account as well on YouTube at Soul Brothers Pod on YouTube. Subscribe over there, please, and interact with our videos because this is going to support the podcast a lot. Thank you so much, and we'll see you at the next one. Stay safe.
Adios, everyone.